Hi, I'm Rachel Ann Goodman. I teach writing for the broadcast media at Cabrillo College. And every semester, my students pick a topic that they feel they really want the community to know about. This time, they chose the rights of lesbian and gay people in the campus as well as the broader community. Here to talk more about that with a panel of Cabrillo students is Aleesha Broussard.
How would you feel if your college treated you differently because of your sexual orientation? What would you do? How well do you think Cabrillo College treats its LGBT community? Last month was LGBTQ History Month. Although lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people have fought for and gained many rights, such as the right to marry or be employed, they are still discriminated against. A recent USA Today article reports that in 2016, New York City's Anti-Violence Project documented a 45% increase in calls to their violence hotline. Also, last year, the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs recorded 1,036 incidents of hate violence against LGBT people in 11 states. Even though our Cabrillo campus offers counseling, there is still no single place on campus where LGBT students can gather. Today we will be talking about the rights everyone should have and how far this campus has to go to protect this community. With me on this panel is Alexis Navarro, Margarito Rodriguez, and Saya Bolda. And now for a video including discussing over the topic of our LGBT community.
There's a group, a rainbow group, and there is a club, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. You can go to Planned Parenthood, they have transgender care, and there's the Diversity Center.
Well, I haven't partaken of them myself, but I know they're available, and someone can go and discuss issues if they wish to.
Yes, because of working at Planned Parenthood and knowing all the patients and their struggles.
Well, my uncle's gay too, one of my uncles. And I know his father, my grandfather was a strict Catholic, so he had difficulty at first, but eventually they accepted him, so.
No, I haven't really faced any challenges. I heard people's different challenges, but that's it.
When I came out in college at UCSC, I never really felt connected to the queer community up on campus. I was very new to the whole culture, and I didn't feel like I could explore and ask questions in that environment, so I just kind of like stayed back and stayed in my lane and hung out with the people in my community, which was like completely separate from the queer community.
Yes, I do. I do have my friend who's trans, and she is often bullied and followed, and it's scary. It scares me that she's out there just being herself and receiving these threats. But she doesn't dwell on that. She just keeps moving forward and being strong.
I do feel accepted, especially in a dance class I had. We were doing a rehearsal because I'm going to be doing the dance concert there. And we were talking about wardrobe. The choreographer, she was talking about wardrobe and how she wanted like suits and dresses, right? And I'm like, well, I'm going to wear a dress, you know, just because I want to wear a dress. And like, I feel like she implied like I was being kind of put into this like category, like, oh, you have to wear a suit, you know? But it was kind of cool how she kind of corrected herself. She's like, yeah, you can wear whatever you want, like you can wear suits or dress, I don't care, you know, like, feel free to do that. So I thought that was really cool how there is that knowledge of teachers that know that some students do not conform or do not wear what is expected. And so that was really cool because I never really heard anybody be that vocal about it. You know, I was in front of the whole students, and it was really cool.
It's like when I came in, like I told you I was identifying as gay, but I always felt like there was this pressure to be a certain type of gay person, like vis-a-vis stereotypes and like expectations and norms, etc. And that really wasn't me. And through my involvement with the Diversity Center, I was introduced to the term queer and what it meant, how people identify in many different ways and use the label queer to identify themselves, because they're just like this large, it's like this large umbrella term. And so that just fit more with myself, and I wouldn't have known that had I not been introduced to the center. And so it's helped me like unravel more about my own identity.
So after watching that video, you guys, I'd love to know if they've ever covered, do you think that any of the students have covered over the laws that are for LGBT rights?
I feel that a lot of students, I think, especially at Cabrillo, are, at least from my experience, I know I have a lot of friends who are LGBT, and they do go to Cabrillo or have gone to Cabrillo. And I feel like a lot of them have said, the Cabrillo is a safe space for them, that they don't feel that they've been, too pressured by any standard of being, a certain way, that they're free to be whatever they are, like lesbian, gay, or bisexual, or even trans, that they don't have like that certain type of stereotype to be one thing. So I feel that Cabrillo is kind of a really good place to have that kind of freedom to just talk about who you are and what your rights could be. But as far as I know, there hasn't really been like a really good place where or a resource that all LGBT students can maybe go and talk about, like, how was your day, or did you have anything that may have bothered you in that today, or is there something that you probably thought was kind of odd, or did you see maybe someone being mistreated in some way? So I think in that sense, Cabrillo's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I know that there is a lot of places at Cabrillo with they claim to be safe spaces, which for me that's a start. As a college, you want to be as inclusive as possible with all of your students. Be diversified, and I think it's a great start to have these places. My first year in 2015, I didn't see much of those spaces, but as I continue my education, I'm surprised that we actually do have safe places now, such as the Office of Student Equity. That's a safe place that we all could go to and express our feelings, or just go and show support.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of I see more and more places as I continue my career as a Cabrillo student, and I think what Alexis said is true too. There isn't maybe one specific spot. It's better that there are more, and there's small things. And then as we were researching, we saw the Diversity Center, flyers for meetings at places. So I think Cabrillo is a good place.
Definitely. And just to clarify, what are the basic rights by law for the LGBT students?
Well, there are the ones that there are for all students. We can't be discriminated against because of our race, our background, anything like that. And we all have to be treated equally in the classroom. The teacher can't eject us from class because of our background or anything like that.
And also, if you see someone being involved in maybe a hate crime, or you yourself are being bullied or mistreated on campus, then you should go report it to either a teacher or a counselor or someone of a higher rank. So that way the proper methods could be used to resolve the issue.
And I know that Cabrillo does have a code of conduct. I think it's 27, where it says that students can't bully each other because of their race, sex, gender, and all that. So I think that is pretty cool that we do have. And if that does happen, you could sign in a form and send it to the dean of students at Cabrillo, and from there they're gonna take charge and see what's gonna happen, because we don't allow this type of behavior at Cabrillo.
I definitely know for sure that in housing wise, and say you get to be roommates with someone while going to study and all that, that in January the 24th of 2011, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, published a rule that would require grantees and participants of HUD programs to comply with local and state non-discrimination laws that include sexual orientation, gender identity, which also would mean that you would have to accept of who they are, and you can't just immediately knock on their door and be like, oh my god, why are you gay, and discriminate against them. They bought the house, it's their right. You cannot just knock on their door and discriminate against them. And I think that would really relate with people who are roommates with others. So if your roommate was gay or something, you can't immediately just think why are you gay? And like, you can't be my roommate if you're gay. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's just a person who's just trying to live with you. They're paying rent too, don't worry.
I kind of like want to branch off on that, and I do want to say that here in like Santa Cruz and Watsonville, like we are like super like supportive of the LGBTQ plus, but where I see the problem that's coming from is from the new president. You know, he had the transgender ban, the military transgender ban, and I think it's really sad because this gives the authority to expel transgender people from military, and if they are transgender, it gives permission for the Pentagon to stop recruiting transgenders, you know, in the military, and it cuts off the payment for sexual reassignment surgery, and it also cuts other medical treatments. So, you know, I feel like as a society we're doing well, but it's like, you know, the higher up in the government that's kind of like derailing us back to in time, you know.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of just like bullying in that general area, what do you guys think is the difference between discrimination and a hate crime?
Well, I don't think necessarily that you can separate them. I mean, you can, you know, one is a hate crime, one is discrimination, but discrimination could be more like bullying, you know. That could be something that you could just brush off and say, oh, like, that's just kids being kids or boys being boys. And then there's a fine line between that and a hate crime. But the more you discriminate and the more, like Margarito was saying, when our president does stuff like this and says that it's okay to discriminate against someone based off of their sexual orientation, I think that kind of opens the door and says, you know, discrimination is okay, and that's going to lead to more discrimination, and that will subsequently lead to more hate crimes, the way I see it.
I mean, I have one definition of a hate crime, which is hate crimes can be displayed through speech, literature, graffiti, internet, posters, brochures, pamphlets, assault, property damage, or property defacing. Which, I mean, in a sense, I feel like that's something that is very prominent in today's culture. I mean, we see a lot of hate crimes being displayed not only for LGBT, but for if you're a different race or a different, you know, person of a different kind of thought process, you're considered to be not normal or not, you know, of the social norm. So I feel that people need to really think through what they believe should be a hate crime and what's, quote, or what they might think is, oh, it's just, we were trying to like get some sense into them, or, you know, it's like, oh, it's bullying. It's not bullying. There's a fine line between bullying and a hate crime and discrimination. So I hope society can probably define that line a lot better.
I for sure know that the military transgender ban is, you know, discriminatory because it's expelling transgenders from joining the military, and like, you know, it's just because you're transgender doesn't mean that you can't join the military. So it's like, this is the roots of you know, being discriminatory towards a certain LGBTQ plus community. And I think that, you know, it holds that stigma of if you're transgender or if you are from the LGBT community, you can't do this, and that is, you know, the basis of this discrimination. And I think this doesn't have to happen because we just need to accept each other by who we are.
For sure. I, for one, have witnessed my sister being bullied, and it's hard to see when someone who's already came out and like immediately they're just attacked for just being a little bit different. And it just doesn't even affect her mostly. It's just if you affect someone, first it'll go out to the coming out person, but then it'll go to her friends and then her family. So it affects everyone that's around them. It hurts. And now we're gonna go to video 2 over professional, for sure, about LGBT rights.
The Diversity Center of Santa Cruz County is the only LGBTQ resource center that provides services for the entire Santa Cruz County that isn't associated with any kind of like academic institution. We provide resources for the entire, or for a wide range of people within the queer community, the LGBTQ community. We have support groups for the trans community. We have a youth program. We have a Triangle Speakers Bureau. It's a speakers bureau of folks who identify as LGBTQ, sharing their lived experience. We have a program for elders called 60 Plus, and we also have a program for the Latinx community called Conexiones. So the center has been around since 1989. Since then, the work that they've done has really impacted many sub-communities of the larger queer LGBTQ community. There are many reasons why the center is important for LGBTQ youth. One of them is that it's the only place that any youth who may be experiencing any kind of like homophobia at school, at home, any kind of transphobia, or just neglect, or downright if they aren't being accepted in their immediate circles, it's a place for them to be connected to services and other people who identify like they do. They know they can find somebody else who looks like them, who feels the same way, who may have a similar experience, that they can befriend, that they can find a mentor. Something else that the center provides for LGBTQ youth is vital resources for anyone who might be going in, who might be entering their transition. If someone who identifies as trans is looking for resources or services or connections to medical providers, any kind of help or aid with filling out legal documentation for name changes, etc. We're one of the only places that can provide them with a link so that they don't have to do it all by themselves. We're mostly there to kind of like triage the community and see what they need. And so with the youth, that's exactly what we're doing. We're inviting them in, we're hanging out, we're creating events for them, we're creating opportunities for them to socialize and to become strong LGBTQ leaders, and we're also giving them resources and tools so they can live like authentic lives and really feel more empowered. To me, the Diversity Center means it's been the place where I've been able to ask questions of my own identity that I didn't have the language or explanation for. It's allowed me to push away from the stereotypes of certain identities and certain labels and really hone into the feeling being more important than the behavior or the label itself.
So do you guys think that this video was helpful for resources?
Yeah, I mean, the video that we just watched, that's my boss, but he is also part of the Diversity Center in Santa Cruz. So, I mean, when he talked about the Diversity Center, I could tell that he has a lot of heart into it, because he's also, gay, but it's also like working with youth. So I feel like, especially with high school students, because there's so much bullying or harassment that, especially for LGBT youth, that I think that having a center or having a place where they can come in and just let themselves express themselves in any way that they want to is really great, especially, because it's a big place, it's a big center. So I feel that, I don't know, it's just, I feel like very happy and very kind of like just a little bit more at peace knowing that there are places like this, because if there can be one in Santa Cruz, I mean, there's more like across California, and if there's ones that are across California, they could be across like the whole United States, but we have to be open to that. And I feel that because LGBT youth is so important, I mean, they're going to drive the next generation. So we have to make sure that everyone is accepted and everyone can feel love and just at a place where they can feel safe.
I feel like it's great to have this type of resources, but I feel like it's not enough. We need more resources like this. And I know that my first year here at Cabrillo, I had like people from the Diversity Center coming into my class and just talk about their experiences being at like an LGBT community. And I think it was a great place because, like, to be honest, I got to like ask a lot of questions, and basically the question that I asked was like a lot of like things that I have learned from like my culture. And it's important to have like someone to ask questions to, because a lot of times like we have like these perceptions that the LGBT community is a certain way, and when you get to actually get to know them, like they are completely different. Like they are like us. Like they're we are all human beings, and we should treat each other with decent respect. And I know that also Cabrillo does have the student health services. They do offer a rainbow group that meets Tuesdays from 1 to 2 in room 909. So I think that's another good thing that Cabrillo has.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important for youth in the LGBT community to have resources. Teens in this community are 2 to 3 times more likely to commit suicide. They're 5 times more likely to miss school, and of those people, 28% drop out of school altogether. So I think that if we had more resources like this, like that we have at Cabrillo, that we have in Santa Cruz, that maybe those statistics would be a little less, and that's what we want, right?
Right. And kind of just quickly going back on like the Diversity Center, I know that the Diversity Center doesn't really apply with college students, but they can certainly volunteer. So I know that just because you're not probably in the community as a member, you're definitely able to still reach out and be a part of that community in any way possible. So I feel like if there isn't a resource, you can definitely like hopefully make it. Like if there isn't like a club or a specific program on campus at Cabrillo, that hopefully like more students will be able to say, hey, we need something like this, so they can speak up and say, we want something, can Cabrillo help provide it?
Mm-hmm. And then kind of moving a little forward, many people say that members of the LGBTQ plus community are overly sensitive. Is there any truth to this statement?
I don't think it's a case about sensitivity. I think it's a case about decent respect. Like when you bring the sensitivity into it, I feel like that is a basis of oppression. You're already thinking that, like, oh, they're too sensitive, or they're like this, like that. And I don't think that's the case. Like, it's just, don't say anything that your gut, like, basically when we say like something and we think that it's going to offend someone, it's probably going to offend someone. So, like, just don't say it, and you will not cause any sensitivity or anything like that. But I don't think it's a case of being too sensitive. I think it's a case that you shouldn't be, trying to, ask disrespectful questions or being disrespectful towards someone because of, their identity.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. It's basically just about being a decent human being, in the sense of like, if you want to get to know someone, you get to know someone by who they are and what they're about. And then you can judge of whether or not you want to be like in a relationship or friendship or whatever you want with them. It doesn't matter if, first off, like, sexual orientation should be the last thing you talk about, but it's also a good conversation starter. Like, what's your name? What are your pronouns? Because those are like very good topics to start off, especially if you're LGBT, because many LGBT probably want to tell them their sexual orientation but can't because they're afraid of like that barrier. So it's always a good thing to be open. So I don't think it's like a sense of sensitivity. I think maybe people who aren't LGBT, they're the ones that might be sensitive because they're kind of afraid to like maybe say the wrong thing, or if they don't like the LGBT community, just say something offensive, and then they'll probably say, oh, well, they could take it. It's fine. They probably get it all the time. It's about being a decent human being and being able to just be kind to people. It's just about kindness.
Yeah, I agree. It's about kindness, it's about respect, and it's about like understanding another person, right? Like you said, people are maybe afraid they're going to say something that's going to upset someone. Just, be respectful of them and don't ask something rude. Don't just be respectful.
I feel like even if you aren't for LGBT rights, like if you're just someone who aren't into the community and just doesn't really want to be a part of it or anything, you still have to be respectful to their rights. Like you can't just be rude. It's like not okay. And it just like it affects that community. It bruises them. It hurts them mentally and physically. It's another form of bullying, and it should be, it should be talked about, and it should be more open for Cabrillo, so that we can all like somehow find some way to like help them be more comfortable, even though if we like, let's get even more comfortable. Like, you don't have to, even though we have such a comfortable college, like, that doesn't mean it's the same for every college, unfortunately. We still struggle with a lot of colleges that are trying to keep the closet closed rather than open. And then what are some ways that we can help out the LGBT community?
I think kind of what we were just discussing right now, you know, you want to approach someone and make them feel comfortable, like respect them, don't be asking them things that are rude or just really too prying and personal that you wouldn't really ask anyone. I don't know why you would ask someone in the LGBT community something you wouldn't ask just someone else, you know?
Yeah, I feel like if you want to be an ally or a supporter of LGBT, then, you know, if you have a friend or if you know someone or if you know of an event, like go to Pride or go to any like parade or organization that might help LGBT people, or if like you go to Cabrillo or in any college really, like the first day, maybe teachers could ask like, oh, okay, so what's your name? What are your pronouns? What do you do over the summer? You know, just things that are just something that could be slipped into like something that's casual and nothing to like, oh, what are my pronouns? Like that's such a weird question to ask.
I feel like you could even start the conversation of saying
Yeah.
your pronoun and be like, hi, I'm so-and-so and I use she, her pronouns. What's your name?
Exactly.
So for the time that we have, I would like to just thank each and every one who have been a part of this panel and Community TV for helping us promote an ethical issue that should be discussed in the light of current events. Just a reminder, every Cabrillo student has their own rights, and we should accept them, no matter what background they come from. Every student on our campus has a freedom of speech, and even if we may dislike it, we still hold no right to get in their way of expressing themselves.